Hello and welcome back to Praying with Broken Hearts, Spirituality for Difficult Times. I'm Father Joseph and this is session 10, Praying Our Mortality. Now, praying our mortality, contemplating our own deaths, that memento mori, remember that you will die, sort of thing, is probably the most universal religious practice, crossing all sorts of religious traditions. Remember that you shall die. For us, it might not be a comfortable thing to contemplate. We're often told really not to think about it. But it's a truth. It's the most universal human truth, even. We don't know how, we don't know when, but we do know that we will die. And so, by contemplating our mortality, we remember to live lives of righteousness and compassion, to live well for others, and to honor who we are as children of God. As a religious practice, on Ash Wednesday, we receive the sign of the cross on our foreheads. And of course, I as a priest put the sign of the cross on people's foreheads. Do you recall what's said? Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Dust. Nothing spectacular. Nothing really beautiful. But dust. Dust. Sometimes people try to jazz it up, like, more than dust, dust is awesome. But the thing is, it reminds us that not only are we simply mortal humans, but we're just part of creation. Like animals and plants and buildings even. Everything has kind of a limited lifespan and decays and erodes. And I'm just like them too. So death is not just a universal human experience. Death is a universal experience. Even stars eventually run out of fuel. Death is that universal experience. By contemplating it, we remember who we are and who we are called to be. It's really an invitation to that kind of joyous, holy life that gives life to others. One of the most difficult things for me as a priest on Ash Wednesday is looking people in the face and saying those words. Because I don't know who I will have to bury next. I don't know. There are elders, there are children, and there's me. I could be first. I don't know. But in that moment, there is a powerful communion, a powerful commonness that we all are like this. We are all mortal. And we all will die and be held in the hands of God. That there is the act of faith we are invited to. Not to think about, what's it going to be like, after we die? What's that life like? Scripture does not give us much information at all, because Scripture wants us to do the right thing now. So no images of floating on clouds with harps. That's not the image that Scripture wants us to focus in on. Scripture says so very little. It just says, you will die, you are held in God, and there is resurrection. And we get beautiful little glimpses here and there of what resurrection life is like. But we're not meant to dwell there yet. We will get there. That's inevitable. What we're meant to do is do what is good and right and loving now. To live our common humanity, live into being a common part of creation, like everything else. It's a real act of humility to admit that, isn't it? To admit, I am mortal just like everything else in creation. That right there is one of the most profound gifts of spiritual reflection. Thinking about our own mortality and having a little bit of bravery around it. Knowing I don't need to know for sure what happens after I draw my last breath. But I know that God is there. Just as Jesus drew his own last breath on the cross, well, he'll be there at mine. Jesus will be there when I die. Jesus took on all of our humanity. He knows, and he will be there with me at mine. So as you pray about your own mortality, think carefully, what messages and images did you receive as a young person? Did people talk about death? Did you go to funerals? Did you see anybody's dead body? We oftentimes get so alienated from death. We don't touch the dead person. In old times, one would actually wash the body. You touched and you felt that connection to the person and knew there's sort of that transition that's happening. Some families try to hide all of that from children. Think about how often we talked about, oh, the dog went to go live at a farm upstate. The little lies that we tell children. Was that helpful? I remember my own experiences with losing pets, and it broke my heart. It broke my heart in pieces. And yet, confronting that death helped me to love them. So think about that. There's a lot here. Perhaps this is the most difficult of all of them. But it is the one that every religion would say, and even our atheist friends would say, contemplate that one day you will die so that you may live now.